John, I need more time. Please don't rush. Those words echoed in my mind like a sharp knife cutting through every hope I had nurtured over the past 5 years. Under the soft glow of the candles and the melodies that Patricia had once claimed to love, I had knelt down, heart full of anticipation. I thought this moment, the moment I offered her my heart, would mark the beginning of a new chapter in our lives, the moment when the love I had for her would finally bloom. But instead of the joyful smile I had imagined, Patricia merely smiled gently, not the smile I had been hoping for. She looked at me, her eyes not showing happiness, only the gentleness I was used to. John, I need more time. Don't rush. It wasn't a direct rejection, but it felt like a deep wound in my heart. Why did she need more time? After everything we had been through together, the difficulties and challenges I had helped her overcome, why was there hesitation? Why was there such doubt? I thought she just needed a little more time, a little more space to think things over. I comforted myself, telling myself maybe I had rushed things, maybe she was worried about an uncertain future. But then, just a few days later, I overheard a conversation I would never wish to hear for the rest of my life. One afternoon, while I was walking near the neighborhood, I happened to hear Patricia's voice from behind. She was talking with her best friend. At first, I didn't pay much attention, but then a sentence caught my ear, causing me to stop in my tracks. Patricia laughed lightly, her tone full of self-satisfaction. I don't love him. He's just a temporary support. Once Charles finishes his divorce, that's it. That sentence made my heart stop. Could it be that all these years, I was just a temporary support in her life? She spoke about me as though I was just a tool for her to lean on while she waited for another man, the one she truly loved, who was already married. I stood frozen, unable to believe what I had just heard. How could this be? Patricia, the one I had loved wholeheartedly, the one I thought I would build a future with, could see me as nothing more than an object, a temporary seat while she waited for her lover? A wave of dizziness hit me, and I couldn't move. All the sweet memories, the promises from Patricia, suddenly became meaningless. Everything was a lie, the words I thought she had said from the heart. I stood there, unable to move, feeling the pain rise up, as though the entire world around me had collapsed. The feeling of betrayal, was indescribable. I stood there like a fool while she continued talking, completely unaware that her dark secrets had been exposed. What I felt at that moment was not anger, but emptiness, an overwhelming sense of loss. I am a simple man with nothing remarkable except a sincere heart and patience. My life didn't include expensive gifts or lavish vacations, but I was always proud of what I had, a deep love for Patricia and a dedication to her. Over the past 5 years, I had always been her steadfast partner. No matter the difficulty, I was there by her side, a solid support for her, never giving up. Every morning, I was the first to wake up. Every time I woke up, I always made an effort to prepare breakfast for Patricia, sometimes just a hot cup of coffee and toasted bread, but I knew she liked it. Before she left the house, I would always remind her, "Be careful, don't overwork yourself." Usually she would smile and reply with a light kiss on my cheek, but I knew that behind that smile there were worries she never spoke of. Then, every evening when she came home tired from a long day at work, I always found a way to make her laugh, even if it was just a simple joke. That was how I soothed the tension in her heart, making her feel at peace, that no matter what, I would always be by her side. I never doubted Patricia's love. I trusted her blindly. She was my whole world. No matter the difficulties, I always thought we were a team and that our love would be strong enough to overcome any storm. I convinced myself that if I was always there for her, patient and loving with all my heart, then our love would never fade. I believed in it blindly. I believed that all my sacrifices, all my efforts would be rewarded. I thought we would build a lasting future together, full of joy and happiness. Everything I did, all the little things, I did for her, for the day when we would step into a shared life, complete and whole. But then, the truth began to surface, and everything I had believed in came crashing down. Charles, Patricia's boss, was a married man, but I never suspected anything about their relationship. Charles was her boss, a person with great influence over Patricia's career, so I thought their relationship was just a professional one, nothing to worry about. But Patricia coming home late, the calls she received, and the messages she secretly deleted made me start to feel uneasy. I didn't want to think too much, didn't want to doubt her, but then one day, by accident, I overheard a conversation I would never forget. "I definitely don't love him," Patricia laughed lightly, her voice as if she was talking about a funny story. "He's just a temporary support. Once Charles finishes his divorce, it's goodbye." Those words hit me like a punch in the chest, making it hard to breathe. My head spun, and my legs felt like they couldn't hold me up. It was hard to believe, but it was the truth. The woman I had loved, trusted, and devoted everything to saw me as nothing more than a temporary tool, a support for her to lean on while she waited for another man. The only reason I existed in her life was so she could rely on me until she got what she wanted. My heart felt like it was being crushed. I stood there, unable to believe what I had just heard. All the sweet words she had said, the promises she had made, now seemed like lies with no value. My eyes blurred, unable to see anything but the sharp pain of our beautiful memories now shattered. Patricia didn't love me. She had never loved me the way I loved her. She saw me as a temporary option, a means to an end. Everything I had done, every moment I spent for her, was now a cruel joke. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a shock. I felt like the world around me had suddenly collapsed. She had exploited my kindness and love to pursue another man, the one she truly loved, while I was nothing more than a temporary chair. The most painful part wasn't the betrayal, but the realization that I had lost myself in this relationship. I hadn't seen my own worth. The feeling of being deceived and used, I can't describe it. The pain felt like I was sinking into darkness, unable to find a way out. I didn't get angry, I didn't slam the table, I didn't scream. In my heart, all the emotions were trapped, leaving only coldness and a chilling clarity. I told myself that this was the time I needed to think carefully. Despite being betrayed, despite my heart breaking, I couldn't let everything fall into the pit of rage. I needed to plan carefully, meticulously, not rushing, not hurrying. Let everything unfold slowly, and then the time would come for me to show her the truth. I continued to remain silent, playing the role of the foolish boyfriend, someone who knew nothing about everything happening behind my back. She thought I was still the naive man, loving her unconditionally and doubting nothing. Every time she smiled, I smiled back, not a word of complaint. Every time she spoke sweetly to me, I still believed, like a fool, that she truly loved me. But deep down, I knew I was being deceived, and I wouldn't let this betrayal pass without consequences. During that time, I quietly gathered all the evidence that Patricia had carelessly left behind. I took screenshots of chats, emails, and recorded conversations, everything she said to Charles, dirty words, flirtatious remarks, and the secretive plans they exchanged. Every message, every conversation was kept as irrefutable evidence. I didn't need to do anything else. The truth would be the strongest weapon, and I wouldn't rush to use it, just waiting for the right moment. For the past week, I had been planning the second proposal. This wasn't just an ordinary proposal. It was the moment when I would reveal the truth about Patricia and Charles to everyone. I wanted everything to be perfect, romantic, so that Patricia would never forget this moment. I invited friends, family from both sides, and most importantly, I invited Charles' wife. The entire room was lavishly decorated, fresh bouquets of flowers arranged neatly, warm golden lights illuminating every corner. Everything from the music to the menu was meticulously prepared. Patricia thought this would be the romantic proposal she had always dreamed of, but little did she know, I had prepared a surprise she could never imagine. As the party reached its peak, with laughter and toasts being exchanged, I suddenly took the microphone. All eyes turned toward me, expecting me to kneel and propose again. The room fell into a silence, full of anticipation. Patricia stood next to me, her eyes sparkling, smiling like a happy bride. She had no idea that at this moment, everything would change forever. I looked into her eyes, not hurrying, not rushing. My voice was deep but clear, echoing through the quiet space of the room. Go ahead, use him. When Charles is done with his divorce, it's bye-bye. The room suddenly froze. A deathly silence took over everyone. Patricia stood motionless, her eyes wide open, as though she couldn't believe what she had just heard. She turned to look at me, her mouth agape, unable to utter a word. Her face grew pale, as though she couldn't accept the truth that was now laid bare before her. Both she and I knew that at this point, nothing could fix what was broken. Charles' wife, sitting in a corner of the room, saw the chat and could no longer bear it. She stood up, her hands trembling, her eyes filled with tears. She turned and walked away without saying a word, leaving everyone in a cold silence. Patricia, confused, looked after her, but only saw Charles' wife fading into the darkness. Everyone around us was also silent, with shocked expressions, unable to believe what had just happened. Everything seemed to freeze, and I just stood there, feeling no regret. What I needed was the truth, not forgiveness or sympathy. Patricia had betrayed me, but the truth had made everything clear. Nothing could be fixed anymore. She could run away, but she couldn't escape the truth. With a slight smile, I put the microphone down, not looking at Patricia anymore. The feeling when I looked at her was not one of hatred, but of coldness, a stillness I had never felt before. All I wanted was peace, the freedom I deserved. Patricia didn't just lose my love. She lost everything. What she thought she could build from lies and scheming was now just a pile of ashes. She was fired immediately after everything came to light. Surely no one at her company could accept an employee who had lost her integrity and deceived even her boss. The position she had once been so proud of now meant nothing. She was pushed out with no chance of returning. No matter how many people had praised her before, now they all turned their backs. The company she had spent so long climbing to the top of now didn't even want to look at her. Not only did her job vanish, but even her family no longer wanted anything to do with her. She still remembered the day when her mother, after hearing everything, just quietly shook her head and walked away without saying a word. She cried, begged her mother, but the woman didn't respond. And what about her best friend, the one she thought would always support her? They all distanced themselves from her. No one wanted to be involved with Patricia anymore. Her entire group of friends, the people she used to hang out with, talk to, now wouldn't even look at her. She had to face the isolation, and perhaps that was more painful than anything else. She couldn't understand why everything had ended up like this. She had done everything to get the things she thought would bring her happiness, fame, money, a temporary love from another man. But now it was all shattered. The dreams she had built on lies were now nothing but irreparable ruins. And Charles, he wasn't any better. His wife had decided to divorce him, unable to bear the betrayal. She couldn't accept a man who lived this way, with an affair even when he was married. So she left without a word of goodbye. Charles, who thought he could live in luxury and power, now had to divide his assets with his wife, losing everything he had once thought would last forever. The high position at his company that he had been so proud of was gone. The company couldn't keep a leader like him, a shady character who was now shunned by everyone around him. He was pushed out with no place to return to. Everyone, once his partners, friends, turned their backs on him. No one was on his side anymore. No one wanted to be involved with a man like him. The relationships he had built were now just fragments. What he thought was power and wealth was now nothing but loneliness and emptiness. And me, the one who thought I would collapse, was now standing strongest in this battle. After everything, I realized that the things I had lost, the things I thought would destroy me, were what made me stronger. I hadn't fallen. I didn't need revenge or to hurt them. All I needed to do was walk away. Walk away from those who had hurt me, walk away from the fake relationships and a life full of games. I wasn't in a rush. I didn't shout. I left in silence. Not a single glance back. I didn't need to face Patricia or Charles anymore. They had exposed themselves. They had brought this ending upon themselves. I didn't need to do anything. The truth had done it for me. A few months later, as my life started returning to its usual rhythm, I accidentally met Sarah, Charles' ex-wife. She was sitting in a small cafe, the warm golden light shining on her long hair, her eyes tinged with sadness. But when I looked into them, I saw a faint glimmer of hope. We looked at each other for a long time, as if both of us recognized something familiar in each other's eyes. Sarah wasn't a stranger to me, and I wasn't a stranger to her. We had both gone through the same pain, deceived, hurt by the people we loved the most. We started talking. The first words were gentle, like a tentative approach, but gradually our stories became more sincere. She told me about the painful months when she discovered the truth about Charles, about the times she tried to hold on to her family, but in the end, his betrayal shattered everything. She spoke of the emptiness she felt facing the truth that the man she loved had caused her pain for so many years. My story wasn't any different from hers. I shared with her the years I spent with Patricia, the sacrifices I made for her, the love I thought was genuine, but in the end, it was all a game. We didn't need to explain much, just by looking at each other we understood. The kindness in Sarah's eyes warmed my heart, and I felt comforted by her empathy, by the fact that she understood me, not because I was a stranger, but because she had walked a similar path. Gradually, we grew closer, not because of the emptiness inside, but because we had learned to appreciate each other, to understand each other on a deeper level. The love between Sarah and I wasn't a compensation for past wounds, but a mutual understanding of what had happened, an acceptance of what had occurred, and a decision to move forward together. Meanwhile, Patricia lived alone. She had no one by her side, no one patient enough to stay with her after everything that had happened. Her reputation in her professional circle was destroyed. Colleagues and old friends turned their backs on her. She tried to hold on to relationships, but there was nothing left to grasp. Betrayal and lies had cost her everything she once had. As for Charles, he wasn't any better. His wife divorced him, the company fired him, and the relationships he had built over the years were now just rubble. His assets were divided, his position taken away, and he now faced financial problems he couldn't solve. What he once thought was power and wealth had turned into worry, and everyone who had once respected him had abandoned him. He was nothing in the eyes of others now. As for me, I didn't need to take revenge with hatred. I didn't need to plan to destroy Patricia or Charles' lives. The truth had already done all of that for me. Everything happened in a way that I didn't need to interfere. I had learned that sometimes, the best thing you can do is just stand still and let the truth reveal everything. With Sarah, I found peace. We weren't people looking for salvation from each other, but people who found comfort in empathy. We didn't need to run away from our past, but we knew that together we could move forward steadily, seeking a new future, free from the shadows of old wounds. For Patricia and Charles, everything had ended. They had destroyed everything on their own, bringing the consequences of their actions upon themselves. As for me, I had found strength in myself and in the love Sarah and I shared. What would you do if you were John? Forgive or expose? Have you ever loved the wrong person and been betrayed like this? Share your story below. Maybe someone needs to see that. Sometimes losing someone is not losing everything, but opening the door to finding yourself. Like, comment, and subscribe to keep watching the best turnarounds, where justice is restored with calmness and intelligence.